Okay, so here I'm ready to characterize, and then I'm going to bring in the goblin character. Now, the script I just ran to put this in place where it needs to be, that script automatically deletes everything else out. It was initially meant for processing motion capture before we delivered it to students. But no worries, I can just bring in, import in the goblin. So interactive machinima, motion capture, character work, goblin, and the finished one, I know the name is G8. Okay, so the good thing is I've got them both here in a T-pose. All right. Now, as I said before, I don't like this namespace business because I've got a namespace after a namespace. So if you import a file into Maya, it creates the namespace. File import, and here are the import options, and it's got use namespaces by default. Now you can turn them off, but if you have clashing nodes, sometimes I will resolve all nodes with this string, and I could just say, X or whatever. And if there were any nodes that clashed, it would just put this in front of it. But let's just go with the default. Okay. So again, if I go to Windows, General Editors, Namespace Editor, Control-Shift-Click, do yourself a favor and make shelf buttons for all this stuff. Now, I've already got it, so I'll delete that. So let's bring it up. And so when it was first imported, it came in with this namespace, and then that was saved, and then I imported again, so I've got two namespaces on it. So I'm going to delete the namespace, merge with the root, delete, merge with root. Now, like I said, Maya recommends using namespaces. To me, I don't like them just because it just makes the names a lot more difficult to work with. Okay, so shift click on this. So what we're going to do is select the pelvis, hierarchy, and again, let's do the add a prefix to hierarchy names. That's our modify right there. So I'm going to enter a prefix. So I'll just call this goblin. Okay. So whoops, didn't mean to do that. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to hit Q for select and select nothing. I hit Q all the time to get rid of the gizmos. Okay. So let's make a character definition. We will start. Well, actually, let's start with Tyler here. So add selected objects. And then for goblin skeleton, add selected objects. And for the goblin geometry, add selected objects, and then these underscore ones, because they were brought in and they existed in the same file, it makes duplicates. So I'm just going to delete, delete. Now, I always like to keep things named very well so there's no confusion. And you guys in the class should definitely do that as well. So let's make the goblin invisible for now, and then let's just create the, let's characterize the Tyler skeleton here. So I'm going to bring in human IK. I rarely use the content browser, so I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, and then with human IK. Now, in order to make this work, so I'm just going to dock this right here, but you have to kind of move the window over. There you go. Okay, now make that bigger. All right, so I'm going to go to definition. So the goblin's been made, but again, I'm going to delete it. Yes. So now I've got no definition, so I'm going to create a character definition. Before I do that, I need to get this guy in a T-pose. A quick way of doing that is just doing I could set translate X to 0. I could set translate Z to 0. I could set these to 0. And then I could, let's expand this. Okay. And then I could select the hierarchy and then click and drag again, 0, enter, and that makes the entire hierarchy at 0. And in this case, 0 is a the skeleton was made at a T-pose. And so this is both zeroed and put in a T-pose. Now we're going to see something different with the goblin, but because 0 can mean a couple of different things, but this is zeroed out to a T-pose. So I did it the manual way. There is another way, and I'll show you that later. Oops, I'm just going to undo that. Okay. So now, let's create the character definition. So, now these names, spine, head, these are all named in Maya Motion Builder mocap friendly names. Okay, so adding the character definition for this file is pretty straightforward. What I also have to do is select the hips, and I just went to Q for selection mode. And then if I just click on open a skeleton definition file, this is just going to load the human IK template that's looking for certain names, and it's going to find bones that have this prefix. So let's click OK. Boom, there we go. So everything is very close to being characterized. One thing I'm going to do now, so I'm going to look at the hands. I've got another video on how the hands work. And so that's a video unto itself, but I'm just going to show you really quick what I'm going to do in this case. I'm going to show the left-hand view. Okay, and so I've got these extra joints that are essentially like the very end of your finger, which you don't need. I guess if you had claws maybe and you wanted to rotate them like a cat, I don't know. But I don't need these. I could just delete them. But what I'm going to do instead is just remove them from the characterization. So right click, clear, 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 clear. Okay. Let's do the same thing with the right. So I'll usually just kind of rotate around. I'm looking at it top down. So if I click it here, I know which one it is, and so then right click, just clear, 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 clear. Okay. So that's great. My definition is set. So what I'm going to do is lock it. And once it's locked, should make a character. Well, it's going to make the character definition when I create a control rig, but I'm not doing that right now. Now, one thing you'll notice that when these joints come in, these are usually right over the top of each other. And you will get an error. This will be yellow. So what you need to do is actually move them both. So what I could do is unlock it. I'm going to move them both so they're both okay. So this is what you would normally want to do. And then I'll lock this up again. Okay. Now I'm going to do is rename the character, and I'll just call it Tyler Walk. You could call it Tyler. What doesn't really matter, but just make it something unique. Okay, now I've gone through all this work. So I've got the skeleton in a T-pose and characterized, and I've got the goblin in the scene with the T-pose and characterized. So there's a couple ways of doing this. One, I can save the scene as, and so I'm going to go here to Maya Scenes, and I'm just going to call this Goblin Goblin Walk for now, save as. So if anything goes south, I can just go back and read that file in. What I'd normally recommend is characterizing a character on its own, saving it. Same thing with like the skeleton, saving it, and then importing them both with them both characterized. But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and go in and now I'm going to characterize the goblin. So let's go to character none. So let's go back here to this. I'm going to make Tyler go away and the Goblin Mesh go away. And let's go to human K. Stuff I didn't. When I say go away, I meant to hide it. I didn't want to delete it. Okay, I can collapse this. Now focus on the Goblin hierarchy. Let's create a character definition. Okay, so I don't have a character definition currently for this because the naming conventions don't match any definition. So I have to create it manually, at least the first time. So hips, spine, neck spine, double click, neck spine, double click. Okay. Let's do the neck. The clavicles. This calls it shoulder. Left arm. Hand. All this where they're coming out from a root. Select anywhere here, and that's the bone. Okay, now I've got mirror on, and this didn't mirror over, so I'm going to have to select this one on its own. And because this one didn't work, I'm going to just double click on this. I'm just going to clear it just to make sure that I've got the right things selected. Okay. One of the reasons is because I really didn't take the time to make sure this rig was completely mirrored correctly, and I'm not even sure if the names are mirrored. Okay, I forgot to do the head. Double click. The head is this one here. Legs. Left foot. Okay, so that's looking at it from this orientation. So here. All right. Now, I don't trust this one. Yeah, this one's not mirroring for whatever, that happened to me before. So it's a good idea to check everything, and if you want to check stuff, you just click a bone, it's going to light up the one that it's mapped to. All right, now with the hands, this is a different story, and I do have another video on this to look at for a little more in depth, but for now, I'm just going to put it on as fast as I can. Okay, so I'm going to open up the left hand, and with the Goblin, I've had problems, and so I'm going to take mirror matching off. Okay, so now it's just simple. I'm going to put this one here, here. Now the Goblin doesn't have these extra little end nodes like the mocap character did. All right. Now this is mapped before I lock it. Sometimes locking will make things go crazy. So now's a good time to save the scene. Save scene as, and let's call this Goblin Walk 02. Now I'm not thinking of this in terms of a specific walk here in the sense that it's only that walk. This is just a file that has the Goblin and the walk animation in it. So it's just under Maya scenes, save as. Okay, so let's lock it up here. Good. Now I was doing this yesterday, and because my namespaces weren't different, I had problems and crashes and all sorts of stuff, so this is definitely the way to do it. I can usually get away with that, but with the Vicon system and fingers as opposed to what we had before, it's just a little more complicated. So best to just keep everything, make sure you're keeping track of everything. Let's rename the character, call it Goblin. Okay. And actually, you know what? There's also something I do all the time that I didn't do here. So whenever I make a character, I always put a CHAR on the end. That way it doesn't clash with anything else and I know exactly what the node is. Okay, save that scene in case things go south. Now here comes the fun part. I've got Tyler, I've got the Goblin. I can turn on the textures. Okay. Going to need a little work there with the normals. But now we can come back to human IK. So I've got the Goblin character. First I'm going to say none, just to kind of clear things out. Maya gets goofy that way. I'm going to add the character. And now I'm going to add Tyler Walk. And now here's the fun stuff. So this motion has been retargeted and it looks awesome. Excellent. That's exactly what I want. So the only thing I need to do now is go to skeleton, bake, and I'm in the Goblin character, so I'm going to bake this to skeleton. Now, if I want to edit it, I can do the control rig later, but for now I'm just going to do the skeleton. Okay, so now I'm not being driven by Tyler Walk, so I can hide Tyler Walk. I baked the keys onto the skeleton, so now we've got a Goblin with an animation on it. And then if I were going to make an actual motion file out of this, I mean, I'd want to do some editing first, but all I'd have to do is just, I'd probably rename the joints, or maybe not, just keep it kind of clear. And well, actually no, I do have to have the joints consistent, so I'd probably take the prefix off. But you know, I don't. I could keep the prefix on, but I would just want to save this as a skeleton. So I could say File, Export Selection. I'd probably want to do it with the node. Actually, I'd want to take it out from under the node. And I could just say File, export selection, and I would want to save it as an FBX export selection, and then I would bring that skeleton into Unreal. And prior to that, what I'd want to do is export both the goblin and the skeleton. File, export selection, again as a FBX, and that would be for the skeletal mesh. And that's how you get it into Unreal. There's also a game exporter sent to Unreal. I think most people probably do that. So that's it. That's the whole thing in a nutshell. And happy retargeting.